want to open our home to everyone that is concerned about the future of our country. Today's meeting topic will be the school boards, those that influence our children who are the future of our nation. Each speaker has been asked how much time they would need to deliver their presentation, and they were given slots from 5 to 10 minutes, so they get to choose what they wanted. And although we recognize that in reality, it would take a lot more than that to talk about these their backgrounds and what they're looking at, we have promised to stay within that time frame, mainly because we have to honor two things. We have to honor your time, and we have to honor the church's time, because we have the Hispanic service that starts at 2:30. We will allow each speaker to talk for the allotted amount of time they request, and right before the end, 60 seconds before the end, we have a timekeeper in the back that has kindly offered to show that there's 60 seconds left for each speaker. And then what we ask is that don't ask them questions right now. At the end of the session, you will have a 10-minute Q&A, and you can ask as many questions as you want. And if the candidates want to stay here, they can go ahead and stay with us. Hi. They can stay with us and answer any questions you may have. Okay, afterwards, you are welcome to stay around. Well, that's what I just said. We want to thank those that are here today with the purpose of sharing with us either their story or their call to be history makers in this land. So right now, we're going to go ahead and pray. So Manny, would you please be so kind to start us in prayer?
I'll do it from back here, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Learning to do good.
Amen.
Most important, please seek justice, help the oppressed, defend the cause of orphans, and fight for the rights of widows. Amen. We bless you in Jesus' name.
Amen. Amen.
Now, everyone else, for impact. Now, it is because of God's mercy that we have been entrusted with the privilege of this new covenant ministry. We will not quit or faint with weariness. We will reject every shameful cover-up and refuse to resort to trickery ourselves or distorting the word of God. We will stand on the truth for this community.
Yes.
Let us continue to pray earnestly for those who are perishing, for their minds have been blinded by the God of this age,
Yes.
leaving them left in unbelief. Their blindness keeps them from seeing the light of the wonderful news of the glory of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. He is the divine image of God himself, and we are his servants. Let brilliant light shine out of each and every one of you. In Jesus' name.
Amen. Our home, so these candidates can share with you what they are seeing that is ungodly in our school boards and what they plan to do to change it. With that said, we want to make very clear that Impact does not endorse any candidates. And if by any chance you have any candidate that wants to get their information out there, we will go ahead and do that within our reach. So we do have fantastic candidates here, but we know that there are other fantastic candidates out there that we weren't able to reach at this point. We have given each candidate the agenda, and as soon as it's their turn, we ask them to approach the podium and introduce themselves. This time is theirs to share. Once all the candidates have finished, I will come back and we will start the Q&A. So with that said, Radu, we would love to hear your story. Sorry, you need a mic?
Yeah, guys, you can hear me?
The mic would actually be good for the camera.
Oh, the mic is good for the camera.
Okay. Is this on?
Yes, it is.
Hello?
Yes, you're there.
It's an honor to come before you guys. I've been asked by our sister to come and speak. My name is Radu Popescu. I'm coming from Romania. I moved here 30 years ago. From a family of 7 children, 6 boys and 1 girl. Imagine my mother was pulling her hair every time when we were outside or doing things that she had to cover for us. And I wanted to speak about my experience. This is my experience in socialism and classroom. And I'm going to start with the first grade. They will, actually they will take you even earlier than that to teach you what they want, their agenda. They will spend time, money, and they will make sure when you are there, you will obey. Was no maybe, or no, you will obey. And I'll give you when I was in the 3rd grade, we had a teacher by the name of Rita. Maybe I shouldn't say name, but I'm here this day. And he was a very, very cruel teacher. The class will start with you have to stand up and salute the flag. Take 30 seconds to look at Mr. Ceausescu picture. You honor the president, Ceausescu, at that time. And then your class will start. And it will start this way. You will ask question, and if you do not answer the right question about who is Ceausescu, you had to know who Ceausescu is. And you had to know what he tell you to do. And if you don't know, you will get a whipping. As a child, a 3rd grade child, you get a whipping. And let me put it this way, it's about a 1/2 inch to 3/4 whipping, a rod, about this long. And when he was whipping you, it was okay. For me, it was fine. I got whipping, and sometimes I wouldn't even understand why I got a whipping. But the worst thing was, and maybe I'll get emotional, when they will make you beat your own self. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you, this is socialism. And if that was not enough, he will choose another student to come and beat you. Because they wanted to put between you and the other student a hate. From the young age, they will try to break you if you stand for something that they did not agree. And they will promise you everything. Just to say and to do what they want you to do. You guys lived into a free country. You can do whatever you want. And Romania couldn't. I didn't have the right. Beyond being a Christian, that was on the top of everything, I was a Christian. If you don't agree with it, and then you are a Christian, you are the enemy of the state. It's like you're a terrorist because you did not agree with them. That's it. Simple as that. Because you didn't say what they want you to say. I would go home and not even tell my parents because my parents couldn't do anything. To go where? To go to the police when the police were on their side. And they were scared. If you go home and tell your parents, you'll get it worse next time. And where were you going to go? And why? Why all this happened? Because people stayed home when they supposed to go there and fight and vote for what is right. What people did, they gave their freedom away. And who paid the price? The parents? Yeah, they did some. Who paid the price? The children. They paid the price and they had no idea, why am I treated this way? What did I do to deserve this? Nothing. What did I do? Nothing. But I paid the price. And because you're a Christian, on top of everything, If you're a Christian, they will get you in front of the class and will ridicule you. And will tell you you're a fanatic. You crazy to believing in God. That's what they did to us. And that's what they're going to do to your children. Believe me. I'm seeing the signs in this country. The way this country goes. Guys, it's not going to Lala's land. Let me put it this way. We'll take your freedom, your children's freedom, and if you wanted to say something, and if you wanted to stand up in Romania, you wanted to stand up to say something against, you will disappear. You know how you disappear? You go, your dad will not come home. You go to the police and said, look, I don't know where my dad is, where my mom is, or where my brother is. And they will put signs. So-and-so is missing. Do you think was missing? Was missing from your family, but was locked up somewhere in jail and nobody knew about it. We found out after the communism went away, we found out actually they were taking them and just disappeared. That was my life. That's only 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade. Guys will make you stand up in front of the class and will bring some other teacher and some other people from the government to intimidate you. And they will choose the weakest of us. And they will ridicule you. They will tell you you lost your mind, and will make the other students hate you. I had moments when I didn't want to go to school. I did not want to go to school. Why? Why go to school? That the teacher will get you in front of the class, and instead to ask you questions from the lesson that you studied at home, they will ask you religion question, political question, and will make fun of you. Will try to destroy your life. And will tell you that you will not amount to nothing. Because your grades in school depended on them. Not how good you are. Not how able you are or capable you are to study. And you could see the unfairness. You had to study one thing, and the rest of the students in the class, they will be asking questions from that lesson at that day. But when you're in front, they will ask you questions from the beginning of the year. You say, hey, you're good for nothing. And I want to end up with Proverbs, actually Ecclesiastes. Let me see if I can get there. I have 60 seconds left. Ecclesiastes chapter 3. And you guys know there is a time to cry, a time to fight, a time to kill. I believe this day we are believing on a time to stand up and fight. Stand up and fight for what is right when you still can.
Yes.
And let me make sure we do not fight people. We fight a system, a theology. And we bring truth, nothing else but the truth. And let people choose the truth.
Amen.
Thank you for the time. God bless you, and I hope. I'm going to go to a wedding. I'm going to need to sleep out. I took the time to come here. I have a wedding to attend. I'm going to go there. And the next speaker, I believe, is a great man. And he will...
Yvonne, when we get started, there's a PowerPoint here. Would you be able to bring that up? Yeah, it's the one on the right. Great. Well, hello everybody. My name's Hunter Kelly. I work here for Recover America, and I wanted to start with just a praise. I was in Washington, D.C. this last week, and I was at a conference. It's called Voice of the Apostles. Randy Clark and Heidi Baker. I don't know if those are names that you know. Okay, great. That's awesome. And just a praise request. I mean, it was just so powerful, and just God was moving in just incredible ways. A personal praise was I got knee surgery at the beginning of this year in January, and I hadn't been able to. Yeah, I had Derek here and many others have prayed for me here, which I'm so grateful for. And so I hadn't been able to play sports or sprint or do anything. I hadn't run in a month. And I went to this conference, and on Friday, I got prayed for, and my knee is significantly better. And so the next day, I played a full game of football. I hadn't done that in a year. I mean, truly remarkable. I'm so grateful. So I just want to praise God for that. And so I just want to thank you, Yvonne and Victory, for having this, because it's so important. And so I'll just share, at Recover America, this organization, we work with pastors and faith leaders, and and Christians in general, and we talk about why it's important for Christians to engage their civic duties, why it's important to be registered to vote, to have events like these, to run for office, just why it's important, and the impact that Christians can have. And so this is incredible to see a group like this, because this is so rare. I mean, we work with pastors, churches across Houston, across Texas. Groups like this are so rare. And so I just really encourage y'all to cherish this, that y'all have the ability to really engage. And so just really encouraged to be here. So how do I want to start?
You want me to start a presentation?
Yeah, that'd be great. And I'll get this turned on. Great. So I love that we're talking about school boards. The schools are training the future of this country. They're training the future leaders. They're training our children and our grandchildren. They're training the next generation. It is the future of this country. We know that. Yvonne just said that, and this is something that we know. When we take a step back and we look 60, 70 years ago, we see that there was secular America was trying to change the future. They wanted to change the schools because they wanted to change the future. And so they began taking God out of schools, prayer out of schools, scripture out of schools, and now we have a generation that follows those practices. They're not following God. There is no God. And so their plan worked to change the future. But the reality is, we still have that opportunity today. We can change the future. By the grace of God, we have the opportunity to engage to change the future. And in this city, we'll see the school boards. I'm not sure exactly how much information you'll have or what you're all seeing, but I just want to lay out a little bit of the school boards here in the Houston area. Right here on the ground where this church, the district where this church is sitting, there's major school board elections taking place in 10 days. And in fact, there's going to be close to 500,000 students in Houston alone that are going to be impacted by the election in 10 days. And that's remarkable. That's the future of Houston. It's the future of Texas. And just to give y'all some numbers. So Houston ISD is the largest school district in Texas. There's about 200,000 students in the school system. And 5 of the 9 school board seats are up for election. So that means in one election, the entire direction can change. And I know there's people in Houston ISD. There's also Cy-Fair ISD. It's the 3rd largest school district in Texas. And Yvonne, I may need that keyboard.
Oh, sure.
Just because this clicker's not working. That's okay. So Cy-Fair is the 3rd largest. There's about 120,000 students. And the 3 of the 7 school board seats are up for election in 10 days, or 10, 11, something like that. Next Tuesday, November 2nd. And then there's also Klein ISD. There's 55,000 students in the school system. 4 of the 7 school board seats are up for election. So this is remarkable. This is right along this area. And I'll just say, it's great to see y'all engage, and many churches are engaging to vote. And so we're really encouraged. And what's also remarkable is what you'll see in a moment is just how few people vote in these elections. I mean, it's 10%. If 10% of registered voters vote in the election, that's really good. Isn't that remarkable? Yeah. And when you look at, so Houston ISD, the largest school district, there's, it was about a 12% voter turnout last time this election took place. About 12%. When you look at Cy-Fair ISD, it was about 4.4%. Oh. Remarkable. And that's just registered voters. You know, a lot of people aren't voted. In Klein ISD, it was 3% of registered voters voted. Remarkable. I mean, it was maybe about 4,000 people voted, something like that. I mean, it's just less than that. I mean, that's remarkable. The connections in this room, in this church alone, would impact this election. I mean, significantly. And so the opportunity is remarkable. If we all choose to engage, if we like actually owned it, it would make a difference. It would make the impact. And so I'll just show y'all just a few stats here so y'all can see. So this is for Houston ISD. I listed all these things. So 4 years ago when this election took place, each seat averaged about 5,000 votes to win one of these elections. And these are in districts with hundreds of thousands of people. And so just for your awareness, I'll move quickly through this because we don't have a lot of time, but the 5 school districts, got one more button hit, it's 1, 5, 6, 7, and 9. These are the 5 school districts, and feel free to take notes. I know Yvonne has this information, and it's all on the west side of Houston. So here's the map, just to give you a picture. Here is the Loop, 610. Here's the Beltway, and I know we're a little outside the Beltway, but it's on the west side of town. So if you have friends in that area, that's something worth noting to them. Cy-Fair ISD, again, I just listed a lot of this, about 4.4% voter turnout. And so we're very close to Cy-Fair. I mean, we're right on the border. Is this Klein? Does anyone know?
Yeah.
It's Klein. Yeah, I mean, Cy-Fair. Yeah, so you're gonna have people from both for sure. I mean, and so we're right on the edge here. And the difference between this and Houston. So Houston ISD, you have to vote each district. You vote in a specific district. Each trustee has their own district. It's by region. Cy-Fair is different because everybody votes on all the candidates. Houston, you just vote on specific people. The same with Klein. You vote on everybody, on all the candidates. And that is position 5, 6, and 7. And here's Klein ISD. Here's a map here. And again, 4 of the 7 school board seats. And it's positions 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I know we have a number of Klein candidates that are here. Okay. So I'm going to share with you all a little bit from Houston, a little bit from Cy-Fair, and it directly, sadly, this will correlate to Klein as well. And so this is mostly negative, just to give you all a picture. Okay, well, does Houston really matter? Our schools seem pretty good. You know, I know there's, you depending on your perspective, some people say it's good, some people say it's bad. I'm going to show you all facts straight from the websites of these school districts so you can see, so you have the opportunity to see. And so I'm going to show you Houston, and you'll see how this translates to the school districts surrounding Houston ISD. So you get the academic weakness, fiscal irresponsibility. Here's a quick stat. The school district, Houston ISD, is currently $4 billion in debt.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, it's remarkable. They spend $10,000 per student per year. The critical race theory has been in Houston ISD. I mean, on their website, the aggressive, the transgender agenda, and also, so the school board determines the superintendent. The superintendent determines the policy, curriculum, they hire teachers, they determine so much of the direction of the school board. So to give you a snapshot here, for those of you who can't see it, I'll read this out to you. This is a direct screenshot from Houston ISD. I went to HoustonISD.org. Curriculum. And so this is a part of the syllabus for English Language Arts, and I'll read it out to you guys. It says, students will examine fiction and nonfiction texts, such as critical race theory, queer theory, feminist theory, and it goes on. And so this has been taking place in our schools, and we understand that Texas has banned CRT. However, there's many avenues. You know, CRT is a term. There's many avenues to how this gets into the schools. And I'll share this. As you saw, the school board determines the superintendent. The superintendent hires teachers from all over the country. So what has been happening is Houston, being so large and has so many teachers, the superintendent brings and recruits teachers from all over the country. They learn this type of curriculum. They learn these teaching styles. And what happens is they look to school districts surrounding Houston that have higher paying jobs, better students, and so they learn this curriculum and then they move out to the suburbs. And so what happens at Houston ISD directly impacts Klein, directly impacts Sci-Fair. And you see it happen because over and over you see teachers, they go to HISD. I saw it online and I was like, man, this is like really crazy what they're teaching right here. And then I go on to Sci-Fair and I see a teacher that was in HISD that brought that curriculum to Sci-Fair. So it happens. So all of this matters. And so here's just another example on HISD is, the goals here of this syllabus. It says to enhance critical thinking by studying feminist theory and Marxist perspectives. And so what they teach is, there's no objective truths. You get to determine the truth. Here are different lenses that you can look through to determine whatever truth you want to exist. And that's directly contrary to the Bible, right? Directly contrary to truth. I mean, if you get to determine your truth, then you're under no authority, right? And it's directly counter to Christianity. Here's an example. I hate to share things like this, but I think we must. This was on Houston ISD website. This was from a curriculum of an anatomy class, talking about transgender people. And you see what circled this question. It says, what hormones might these individuals take to cause their bodies to shift in appearance? Yeah. Telling students how to change their gender. Teaching children. Taxpayer dollars doing that. So there are worse things than that I could show, but choose not to because it's too graphic. I think that shows the purpose there. So that's enough of Houston ISD, Sci-Fair ISD. So this is something that it's bad, but I have good news to share. So Sci-Fair ISD, the school board a year ago, they wanted to implement this program called No Place for Hate, which is created by the Anti-Defamation League. Anti-Defamation League adopts policies like transgender policies, just like ridiculous, many say it's a Trojan horse for CRT and all these other things. You go to ADL, Anti-Defamation League website, and you see all of these things. The school board a year ago, Sci-Fair, Bible Belt Sci-Fair implemented this at every single campus. That was their goal. However, we started talking about it this summer, and essentially the No Place for Hate just really sounded the alarm on what was happening and how this program will impact so many. And just last week, the Sci-Fair School Board announced that they're going to suspend this program. So just a huge praise. Let's see, 60 seconds, is that what you said? We got 135? 135, we got 5 minutes, okay. Okay, well I'll skip this. Okay, and I'll just close in this. This can all change in one election. You saw the negative impacts, and I'll just say, Klein had, the No Place for Hate is in the Klein district. And they're trying to cover that up. There's just a lot of problems. Klein is seeing a lot of the problems in Sci-Fair that's seeing Houston ISD. It's not nearly as bad as Houston. However, it will continue to slide and get worse if things don't change and if the right people aren't involved. And so the negative impact, the slide that we're seeing can change. It can redirect. And so we have the opportunity to change that. Y'all saw the numbers. You see how if we engage, all of that can change.
Yeah.
And so I'll leave y'all with that. That's all I got.
Well, Klein ISD won District of the Year this year, but if you look at the educational levels, the students that met grade level were 36% in writing, 42% in math, and 50% in reading. My name is Kristen Cobb. I'm running for Klein ISD position 5. So when I talk about those statistics, I think it's clear that we need to get back to basics. We need to focus on reading, writing, math, accurate account of history. These are the things that we should be focusing on. Everything else should be pushed aside so that we can prepare our children for the future. So the current board, they unanimously signed on to an equity resolution in July of 2020 when our kids were going back to school for the first time with mask mandates and social distancing protocols. And they thought that race was the most important thing to our kids at that time, when I disagree. At that time, race was really one of the most divisive issues that we could be making a resolution about, and I just wish they would have done something that had to do with the safety of our kids or the education of our kids instead. When you look at some of the training that Klein ISD has been giving to their teachers, the teaching and learning and leading staff, they've had a training this year in which they were given 7 different books as a recommendation to read for the instruction of our kids. Those books included White Fragility, Why Are All the Black Kids Sitting Alone at the Table, How to Have Courageous Conversations About Race, and all 7 of those books had to do with race. And that focus on race is taking us away from educating our kids. I mean, we really need to focus on that.
My dad was forced to use the colored drinking fountains on the ships when he served in the Navy. He fought so that we wouldn't be divided like that again. Let's preserve the legacy of all those who fought against racial divides and stop dividing our nation.
My name is Kristen Cobb. I'm running for Klein ISD School Board, position number 5. Early voting starts October 18th and Election Day is November 2nd. Come out and vote for me. And if you would like to learn more about what's going on in your district, just visit my website, www.kristencobb4Klein.com. KristenCobb4Klein.com.
Don't indoctrinate us. Educate us.
Kristen Cobb. I'm running for Klein ISD School Board, position number 5, and I'm running to speak truth into the lies. So in Klein ISD, no place for hate, that designation, it does exist there. However, they're denying it's there. Since we've been running, the 4 of us, since this election's been going on, we've been sharing as moms, and in our mom groups, we've been sharing a lot of information. And when we do, especially when it's regarding CRT and some of these programs, they get deleted off the internet. So a friend of ours, Priscilla, did a PIR request and asked for all the information regarding the No Place for Hate designation in Klein ISD. And when that happened, they got a response saying that there is no Place for Hate program in Klein ISD. Then that was also deleted off the website. However, the moms that come and speak with us in our meet and greets and things, they're telling us that there's still No Place for Hate posters on the walls. So this is why I say I'm speaking truth into the lies, because that's what we're seeing. A lot of the things that we're being told are just not true. We do absolutely have this singular focus on race, and like we said, the term CRT is probably not going to be used as openly, especially now that we're bringing it out and putting shining light on that particular issue. So they're putting it in all these other kind of ways. So for instance, on this right hand side over here where you see the books, all the smaller books, if you can't read them, I'll read some of the titles, but that is taken from a training for Klein ISD leadership and teaching staff. So that would be like the administration, not necessarily all of the teachers, but this is how they're teaching this ideology. You can see that they're recommending reading like White Fragility. Also, Why Are All the Black Kids Sitting Together in the Cafeteria? Race Talk and the Conspiracy of Silence. And down there is some extra book titles, case studies for diversity and social justice education. So as you can see, all of these things are absolutely involved in Klein, and so that's why this race is so important. All American Boys is a book title that when we were at one of the school board's meetings, a mother brought that book to our attention, and she's married to a police officer, and this is an assignment that her son was given. They were to read this book, which is about systemic racism within the police department. So of course she said my son's not going to be reading anything like that. Moreover, that book's theme had a destruction of the family type of a theme within it, where the police officer that ends up beating this minority student who was the best friend of his own son. That son whose father was that police officer, he makes the decision to cut all ties with himself and his father. So that's the destruction of the family that we're seeing. I also want to highlight something that Radu said. I think that all of us have seen the letter that the National Association of School Boards brought out, where they wanted to designate parents as terrorists. And like Radu was saying, we know that when you disagree with some of the things that are going on, that's how they're going to label us. I know they also retracted that letter, but it's a little bit too late now. I think we know exactly where they're going, so we don't believe it. And we, thank you for telling us exactly how you felt about parents coming and speaking at meetings, because I don't know about you, but when I see all of these moms being escorted off of the premises by police officers in these viral videos, I've not seen one of a school board member having that same problem. So here's the No Place for Hate that I was discussing a moment ago. So if you look at what it says there, it says that the ADL's No Place for Hate program is an initiative which provides educators and students with the resources to ensure that anti-bias and diversity education are an integral part of learning. So we know that that's what they're trying to do with the schools, especially with the No Place for Hate. This one on the right here, on this side, is a equity resolution that they passed in July of 2020. The reason they passed this was because this was the first time we were going back to schools, and we were going back to schools with our kids having social distancing protocols they've never had before and mask mandates. So the most important thing, and if you can ask me for the link on this if you want to read it a little bit more, but every single paragraph is about race, and it's about apologizing for even perpetrating this racist ideology without even knowing that you're doing it. And so the board unanimously passed this. They did a video and they all read a portion of it, and they thought that this was the most important thing affecting our students going back into the school year, not the fact that we had just lost a year worth of education. Here is some gender issues. When I first started running, I knew there were CRT issues. I was not aware of some of this gender stuff that was going on, and so for our new school year this year, some of those get to know your student questionnaires were given to the students, and you can see that red circle right there. The teacher wanted to know which pronoun they were using. And in a 6th grade class, this Gracefully Grayson book was assigned to a student. And this book says that Grayson has been holding on to a secret for what seems like forever. He is a girl on the inside, stuck in the wrong gender's body. Mm-hmm. So this is not something that I feel would be appropriate to be giving to minor children. And this is happening in Klein. And of course they're telling us that this stuff is not happening, but we know it is. So Klein has some other fiscal responsibility issues. I think that we're spending a lot of money in areas that we could probably reduce. One of the other things we need to do is we need to have a committee that is formed of community members like yourself to go through some of these transactions. The check registers at Klein ISD are around like 50,000 different charges. And so what we need to have these members doing is taking a huge chunk of that, maybe a couple thousand a piece, and actually Googling the names of the organizations that we're spending our money on, because some of these things that we're spending money on and some of these programs that we're sending our teachers to are really just, like we said, Trojan horses to have them bring this equity, diversity, inclusive training back to our students in Klein ISD. So we need to be careful about where we're spending our money and start pointing out that these are the things that we don't want our tax-paying dollars and our dollars being spent on our kids. And so for some of the money issues too, I looked through these check registers and found hotels and airfare in the month of April. They spent about $87,614. And if you remember what happened in April, I do. My business was shut down. And I wasn't going anywhere. So they also spent $31,000 on restaurants that same month. The budget is about $526 million. We're doing pretty good because we're only $1.1 billion in debt, but I think if you live in Klein, we all know that they're planning another bond. And $100 million of our budget goes towards that debt, so I don't think we need to be adding to it just yet. I think we can look at, maybe lowering some of what we're already spending and redirecting it towards educating our students. And here's the most important thing that we need to do as far as educating our kids. So one of the things that you will not hear discussed at the school board meetings or by the superintendent is exactly how well our kids are performing in the district. We just won National District of the Year. Obviously, it's not from our academics. We've got 50% of our kids are meeting grade level right now in Klein in reading. 42% are meeting grade level in math and 36% in writing. So we need to refocus our resources right now, not on teaching all of these gender ideologies, all of these, racial hyper focus on race that we see. We need to really start focusing on educating our kids, because if we don't, this is how our kids are going to be graduating, totally unprepared for success, but fully prepared to be dependent upon the state. Yeah. Right? So one of the reasons that I'm running is I'm a business owner in the district. I write policy. I have a master's degree from Liberty University School of Law, and so policy is a real passion of mine, and I know that we can take some of this stuff that we're waiting on to get passed at the legislative level, and we can implement some policy to restrict some of the ideological teaching that we're seeing. And of course, we need to really spend money on and giving our teachers these tools to support our students fully, because this is something our teachers have never dealt with either. Our teachers, for the first time in their lives, have classrooms filled with students that are having these kind of struggles from this lack of education last year in the early 2020. And they need to be able to have the tools they need to catch somebody up after they've lost an entire year's worth of learning. And one of the great things that we have going on in Klein is the fact that 4 of the 7 positions are up. And in our election, only about 3,400 people turned out and voted. So like Hunter was saying, if everyone in this church turned out, you could absolutely make a change in this district. So I want to ask you to pay attention to these elections. I want to make sure that we're focusing on the parent needs, and make sure that you're joining these Facebook groups, that you're watching what your kids are being taught, and that you're sharing them amongst yourselves, because if we're not sharing this stuff with each other, we're not going to know that it's going on. So if you've been to any of the school board meetings during the election cycle, you've noticed that it's very hard to get to these. They're changing the locations, changing the times. The last one that we had, the location was moved. The time before that, they changed the time from 6 o'clock to 5 o'clock, and that's significant because the beginning of the meeting is when the teachers have that 2 minutes to speak. So the parents have 2 minutes to speak, and so if you're coming from work, you're going to miss that opportunity. And several folks' names were called and they were not able to speak, so they were stuck in traffic trying to get there. So in Klein ISD, I think that we can all see that there definitely is it's time for change right now, and we need to make sure that we're voting in people that are willing to stand up and speak the truth into the lies that we're seeing.
My name is Matthew Skaggs. I'm running to be a voice for the parents, to give them an option on what goes on in the school board. Let them have a say on what's being taught in their school's lives. The current board is basically a yes man. They don't do anything at all for the school district. They vote yes 100% on whatever is presented to them. They don't speak their opinion. If it's controversial or not, they all vote yes. The problem with the school board now is they just don't meet the parents' needs. It's all about their agenda. It's all about pushing what they want across. They say it's for the parents and for the kids, but it's truly not. When I get on the board, I would like to change where the parents have a voice, where they can come in, say their mind, or have a phone call or a phone number that they can call and actually have a board member listen to them. Some of the issues I care strongly about is CRT, what is being taught to our kids today, racism, mask mandates, injections. The past year and a half, we lost so much, and the first thing that the superintendent does when we come back is not say what we're lost, not to say what our kids lost and what we're going to do to get them back on. She's talking about George Floyd, and that's just wrong. What happened to him was wrong, but our kids don't need to pay the price for it. I'm an executive director for a nonprofit that has kids, youngtalents.org. I have triplets. I was on the PTO board. We need to go back to teaching our kids reading, math, and arithmetic. Our kids need to learn how to balance a checkbook. They need to know what it's like to have everyday life experiences. My name is Matthew Skaggs. We want our kids to be successful. We want our kids to know without a shadow of a doubt that they can succeed without our government. I'm asking for your vote. If you want to know more about me, go to mattskaggsforklein.com. For Klein ISD position 2. I'm running because I want to give each parent a voice in what's being said. I want y'all to be able to go to the meetings and speak, and y'all actually get a response back on what's being said to y'all at the meeting. Just because it's not on the agenda doesn't mean that the board can't respond to y'all. I'm also running because we need transparency, and our students, teachers, parents all need to know what's going on in the school board, what's being taught to our kids. Our parents need to have a voice of what's being taught to our kids. I know as a parent of triplets, we don't have a voice of what's going on at all. The school tells us what we have to do, and we have to do it, or we go somewhere else. And I don't like it. I know as looking at what the board has done with shut door meetings, spending money. I went to a conference yesterday with the board. I wasn't supposed to be there, but I was there at a meeting yesterday, and they all talked about winning the national board, but none of them mentioned education and what they're doing for the future. They all talked about what they've done in the past, but what they've done in the past is not good for each one of us. Our board president yesterday stated that they won National District of the Year because of their fiscal conservativeness. Well, they might be saving a little bit of money, but what are they doing for our kids? So I'm running to make a difference in our school board. I'm running because we all have a voice that needs to be heard for our children. If we want our children to be where they are, where they're currently relying on the government, then keep the board the same. If y'all want to move forward, then it's time to change the board. It's time for each of us to step up and vote for what's right for each one of us. As parents, the parents need to be heard, the teachers need to be heard. I found out yesterday that the teachers aren't being heard. They're being told how to vote. And our teachers don't need to be told how to vote. This is America. We all have a voice, but our voice is being taken away from us by the superintendent of the school board. And that's all I have.
Am I saying that correctly? In position 3, Chris Todd is the incumbent, and he is not here tonight. He was invited to come. Let's begin, if you will, by just taking 2 minutes, as much as 2 minutes, and give an opening statement as to why you are involved in running for this position and why you would like to be elected.
Okay. Hi, everybody. First, I want to thank you for coming, and I want to thank you for getting involved and at least informing yourself on the candidates. That's so much more than just believing what you're being told. I appreciate you. 50, 42, and 36. Those numbers, what do they mean? Those are passing rates. For Klein ISD, that's award-winning passing rates, and they're being celebrated and touted by the district. 50% reading, 42% math, and 36% writing. I'm running on faith, family, and freedom. It's essential to the American way. We are watching all of our freedoms slip away. I think that it's time to take action, and it's time to turn the ship around. It's going to be a slow process, but I'm ready to fight. We need to raise our expectation of our children. We need to, sorry, I have laryngitis too, by the way, of course. We need to raise our expectation of our children and empower our kids, instead of letting them think they can't be something because of this or that. Giving teachers the tools they need and the support that they need to teach. Focus more on long-term growth. And if that means the student doesn't pass right away, that is okay. I think we will work with them and make things happen. Passing to pass is not fair to the students or their families. I'm a mother of 4, an entrepreneur, and more. I took a small local company called Lifestyles Unlimited nationwide. I didn't own it, but I helped grow it. Why did I decide to run? I was sitting around looking at my girlfriends and my mom's groups and everyone else and waiting for somebody to, no, I need more time, waiting for somebody else to step up, and nobody was stepping up. So if not anyone else, then who?
Natalie, let's give Natalie Pinkleton a round of applause, shall we?
Spiritual warfare right now, and I don't know if you guys know that. This is so much more above and beyond CRT. This is nationwide, this is international, this is global. They want our kids, they want our freedom, and they want to take it from us now. And if we don't take a stand and we don't stand up for what's right and we stop buying the lies that we're being sold, nothing is going to change, and it's going to, well, things will change and it will get worse, and you will lose your kids. I tell you, I have 4 kids in the district. One of them is 20, graduated during COVID, didn't have any help from the district. They wouldn't answer calls, they wouldn't give us rosters, they didn't even show up for the graduation. Thankfully, a church was brave enough to open up during COVID and allowed us to use their facility to have a graduation.
for our seniors then. I have another child who is 17 now. He is a senior, and he is gaming the system. I'm an entrepreneur. I like to work smarter, not harder. So I taught my kids that. Work smarter, not harder. Don't make things difficult. Well, he has figured out how to game the whole system, and for his whole junior year, COVID, he dropped out of his AP classes, decided he didn't need to take those, and then was failing the other 4 classes. He started to the ones that are lesser level, and he failed those. And he stayed home, didn't want to go to school. The school called him back. He went one day and decided he didn't want to go anymore. So he was at home, still attending halfway school, and he said, Mom, don't worry. I grounded him, took away everything, you know, his electronics. He sat in a dark room for 3 weeks. Mental health now. What do I do? How do I get my kid motivated? How do I get my son back? He quit basketball. Everything changed. So I got him through summer school, and he said, Mom, looks over at me, told you I got this. Passed his 4 classes in 2 weeks on online summer school. So they get away with a lot. Now he is a senior. Was at Oak, and he's transferred to Klein Success Academy, which is an online school. However, I'm like, you are not going to live, and I said he's not going to live if he doesn't get his high school diploma. So if he goes missing, I brought him into this world, I can take him out. And I say that with all the love, but I'm fighting the school system. I believe in love and logic and parenting, and that's my style, and I'm not getting that reinforcement from the schools, and I'm not getting that. I am very frustrated. I started to run because if not me, then who? I was looking at my girlfriends. I've always been kind of a person to step up when it's needed most. I step up. I'm not here to grow roots on the school board and grow old where you're thinking, how many terms can this woman run? That is not me. I want to run no more than 2 times. I want to get in and get out and do what I got to do. But when I got in, all of a sudden I was running because I wanted to protect our freedoms as a parent. Faith, family, and freedom. We've got to protect our kids. The schools don't own our kids. We can't mask mandate. We can't vaccine mandate. We are responsible as parents for our kids, not the school district. They are responsible for teaching our kids, and they're doing a crappy job right now. And I'm fed up with it. So I wanted to bring back to basics, the focus on education. Let's support the teachers. Let's get that going. And then cultural responsive training. Kristen showed a slideshow from it. That's what fell in my lap. I'm like, that's interesting. I don't like CRT. I don't like white kids being told that they're racist and all white people need to check their white racism, and why won't you guys face your racism? And I don't like black kids being told that they can't do anything because of systematic racism and they're being held down. This is America. This is the land of the free, the land of the opportunity, and you can see any immigrant come over and they kill it. Why? Because they believe in the American dream and they make it happen. They don't believe the nonsense and the divisiveness that's going on. We need to stand up and fight. We need to empower our neighbors to have the courage, and we need to give them the information that they need. People are being spoon-fed lies and they are believing it, and you have to push back, because in our district there is a lot of lies going on. Teachers are scared and they are not supported. 50, 42, 36, my daughter who is 14 or 15, she hasn't had an English teacher all year. How is she learning English? Do you know when we were at the same board meeting that Kristen talked about, that they move the time? They really like to move times. They don't send out emails for when the board meetings are, but they'll send out a board meeting. Hey, check about the new TikTok trend. Hey, did you see this happen? But they don't tell you when the board meetings are. My point is, there was a young lady who came up, very brave, to come up and speak, and she spoke to the school board about the CNA program, that she was on a success track. You know, every child has a purpose. Promise to purpose is Klein ISD's slogan. This child is getting left. She was in the CNA program and it's her senior year. The CNA teacher quit or left or whatever the situation. So they told her just to switch programs. So everybody who's in the CNA program now has to switch career paths. They didn't tell her to go, hey, we're so sorry, you can go, if you can make it to Klein Collins, if you can find your way there, you can still continue. They just dropped them. So for me, that is an issue. I am hearing that there is such a staffing shortage at Klein that they are covering 2 classes. This is not the way we bring back our kids. This is not the way to handle our kids. You know, the only reason why the district came out and said that they wanted to ban CRT now, first, they've gaslighted all of us. I got up with this presentation and they said there's no CRT in Klein curriculum. That's illegal. Okay, still not in the curriculum, but what is this? Please answer. That's all I wanted was answers. They wouldn't answer. It's not there. Okay, April 2021, what is this? And you guys can come look at it as well. I read all the books. I bought the books. I didn't just buy White Fragility. I bought Blind Spot, which is okay. But I bought all the books and I read the books to see what they were saying. What is the solution? There isn't a solution with CRT. It's Marxism. And it's to divide and it's to conquer and it's to make us all hate each other and to fight for something. If we need to fix curriculum because history isn't being taught the way that you need history to be taught, then step up and be a part. When I'm on the board, I'm going to start, and we've all agreed that we want a parental board or a community board to go through the finances and the contracts. We want to know where our money's getting spent and to whom. We also want a parental board to help with the curriculum, to read the books, to see what's going on. I think there's too much online. I think kids have too much access to electronics and parents don't have enough access. I think everything that the kids are being taught should be open curriculum. You should, as a parent, be able to see it and know what's going on. And if we don't take a change, guys, this is it. They are bold-faced lying and we are fighting against what I feel are genuinely good people, but their morals or something has just gone off and it's gone askew. So we need to fight and we need to empower our neighbors and we need to get out and make it happen now, guys. We really appreciate you coming out, educating yourselves and learning about us. I just asked for your vote. Natalie Pilkington for position 3 for Klein ISD.
Hi, I'm Dr. Grace Horner. I'm currently running for Cy-Fair ISD School Board Trustee Position 5. I'm a strong conservative Republican, and I stand for your values. I was born in El Salvador. My parents and I migrated to New York City, naturalized as a teenager. I decided I wanted to join the Navy and serve my country, so I did that in 2000. The number one reason that I am running right now is to recreate and to bring back a world-class education system for our school. Cy-Fair ISD should be at the very top. School board is absolutely important at this point because we see how the children's lives are being affected. Kids are the future, right? Seeing all the different disparaging family dynamics, all the different mental health statuses, all the different things that are taking place within each child. You know, it's important to stand and actually advocate for these kids and their families. There is a huge aspect right now of human trafficking, and most people are not aware of that. They understand that, you know, Houston is the #1 hub for human trafficking as it is. A lot of this is taking place in our school systems. It needs to be tackled. It needs to be stopped, okay? Children are being hurt and that absolutely has to stop right now. But when you're using certain topics like implicit bias, when you're using certain topics like, you know, systemic racism and calling it the gold standard of America, I mean, this is not who we are. This is not what America is. China's #1 right now. And we stand as a country on the world stage as 48. I mean, America is the strongest power in the world. Cy-Fair ISD is a golden nugget, right? So if as falls Cy-Fair ISD, falls Texas. As Texas falls a nation. So this is absolutely very important. November 2nd will be the next school board election. It's an extremely important election. Please vote for me. I'm Dr. Grace Horner, and I will be on position number 3 on the ballot. Please vote for me as action changes everything.
So thank you so much for your time. I am so sorry. I had a presentation completed and everything, and I'm having trouble actually logging into the thing. So I'm gonna have to read off my statistics because I found a ton of new statistics that I wanted to present to you guys today. So yes, I'm Dr. Grace Horner. I'm running for position 5 of Cy-Fair ISD School District, and I have 6 children. Actually, I have 4 of them still left in the system. 2 of them have recently graduated. Yes, they're waving to me in the back. 2 of them have recently graduated. My eldest is 24 now. He's autistic and nonverbal. And our 10-year-old is also autistic and nonverbal. Our 18-year-old is about halfway done, 3/4 of the way done with her military training for basic in Navy. So followed in mom and dad's footsteps, I guess you can say. But really I wanted to talk to you guys today, and I'm so glad that everybody's kind of been bringing up, the CRT and everything, but we really need to discuss the other things that are taking place beyond CRT. And really what does CRT stand for, right? I tend to look at it in different ways. I look at it as maybe it's chaos re-education training. Maybe it's Christian re-education training. Why? Because like Hunter had mentioned also, all the things that have been taken away from our schools, right? We are not allowed, if you're Christian, if you have that kind of faith behind you, you're not allowed to really speak out and speak up. You have to stay silent. Everybody else is okay to speak, but not you guys. You guys just have to kind of be quiet on your own, right? That's discrimination, last I checked. Okay, so when we look at everything, yes, I don't know if you guys heard, but I was born in El Salvador. My parents and I actually migrated to the United States, and I don't remember much. I remember being in a big, beautiful airplane, and I loved airplanes ever since. But when we got here, it was because of the war, of the revolution that was taking place in El Salvador. It was under the amnesty program. So when we came here, it was a breath of fresh air. And kind of like Natalie had mentioned also, I am the American dream. Because we started off as something completely different, a very different status altogether. I actually had to learn English once I got here. So I was bullied a bit when I was growing up, but grew up in New York City. And that, for me, was a very challenging perspective altogether. However, my parents were able to bring me to school choice. And because of school choice, I was able to learn so much more. So I'm a strong advocate for school choice and all those different programs that need to be brought into the system. I actually learned very recently that there was a school choice program in Houston ISD, and it was destroyed. Very unfortunate, because I didn't actually know that was, I don't know if any of you guys were aware of that. But the different aspects of school choice and the different abilities for parents to actually have that advocacy for their children is really important. And so, in Sci-Fair, and this is really what kind of got me a little wow. Our current, as of the last school board, is 39.8 million in deficit. Okay, yeah, it's a huge number. They kind of touted it kind of happily, going, yeah, this is all we have. It's not a big deal. We actually have a surplus of 2.4 million. You know how fast 2.4 million goes, especially when they're on the last build out of the whole process. They have 5 schools coming up right now. That's going to go within seconds. I mean, this is ridiculous, right? So one of the reasons why we're talking so much about CRT and all these different things, obviously from what's going on in the nation, is we have to look at this from the perspective of what are these funds being used for? The funds that are coming in, let's talk about ESSER funds for a second. ESSER is elementary and secondary, what is it exactly? Elementary and secondary, yeah, it's a grant for emergency relief fund. And so Congress actually gave us 200, if I'm not mistaken, 200 billion to play with, and if you want to call it play with, right? Yes, so it's 200 billion. And each ESSER fund goes by stages. So right now we're in ESSER 1, and TEA will not actually allow the rest of the ESSER funds to be released until they go in stages, so it's 2023 and then 2024. But where we are right now, there was 122.7 billion that was given to Sci-Fair ISD. Why is that important? Because under the American Relief Plan, you are required a minimum of 20% be used for evidence-based white education. Okay? I want to know where this evidence-based education is. I don't know what that is. I'd love for them to tell me what that is, because last I checked, we all bleed the same blood.
Yeah.
Right? Last I checked, we're all Americans. And I know that if I'm coming into this ISD, I'm going to be representing almost 117,000 children and families. How can I possibly sit here and say, I'm only going to represent one side? No, I'm going to represent the other side. This is supposed to be a nonpartisan race, and the powers that be have turned it into a partisan race, okay? Now, yes, of course it's important to hold to those conservative values, but it is equally important to understand that we need to stop concentrating on what color somebody is, on what name they decided to be called on. For God's sake, Last time we checked, we were born male and female, and I'm sorry, but I have a medical background. I've never seen anything beyond male and female, okay? When I started off my process in medical training, I was in ultrasound. So I was an ultrasound tech who specialized in high-risk OBGYN, and I also specialized in fetal medicine, okay? I don't ever remember seeing a fetus that said, I'm not sure what I'm gonna be yet. They're all the same, okay? So, I mean, I have children. I don't sit there and say I have 4 girls, maybe something else. No, I got 4 girls and 2 boys, you know? And that's how we need to maintain that, because the confusion that comes out of the CRT training is what really needs to take place right now as far as our purview. We need to look at what exactly they're doing. It's confusion, okay? I have 26 years combined, which sounds insane when I think about it because I feel so old. There's 26 years combined of, business management. I have military included, and my husband and I, served together. And fun fact, we met in the Navy. We have all these different things that are taking place. So when I'm a psychologist. I'm actually a Sci-Fi ISD resource psychologist, but I'm a pastoral psychologist. Many people don't know what that is. Marriage and family therapy. I see the things the struggles that are taking place within the system. I treat teachers, I treat educators, and you know what they tell me? Can you advocate for us? Because our voices are being silenced. I need somebody to stand in there and help me, okay? They are aware, there are good ones out there, and they are aware. What I'm tired of hearing is everybody that has to come into the board has to have some kind of elongated, service to the board or to the system. Last I checked, that kind of leads the way to establishment.
Yeah.
A board should have different types of people presenting different skill sets so that you can come together and make a difference, right? And that's exactly what I want to do. I want to come in with a fresh start with something I call Grace's ACEs. And it's based on American values, checks and balances, enrichment of education, and safety and pushing forward towards success, okay? So when we look at this process itself, it should lead the way for what the child needs. Being able to concentrate on each child specifically and not as a mass group think is important. Why do children fail? Why is mental health such a challenge? Because children are failing because they look up to us. What are we doing for them? We have to stand up for them, okay? I'm Dr. Grace Warner, running for position 5 of Sci-Fi ISD. I would love to gain your votes. Thank you very much.
Our responsibility is to go and learn more about these candidates and find out what they're actually fighting for. And our responsibility as Christians beyond here is when anyone goes on the board, gets elected to the board, we have to hold them accountable to what we've heard.
Amen.
Okay? Because the Lord holds us accountable.
Amen.
So I just want to thank all of you. You've been fantastic. Does anyone have any questions? This is your time. Okay. Can you speak into the mic? If you're going to ask the question, we're trying to record, so if you can speak into the microphone, that would be great.
Thank you to everybody that's here and taking part in this. My only question is, on the ballots, I haven't seen the ballots, but on the ballots themselves, can anybody answer me? Are the incumbents identified on the ballots so we know who not to vote for?
No.
No.
That's the problem. We don't know.
Which district are you in?
Sci-Fi ISD. I know 3 people that are running that I will never vote for ever. But I don't know who else is running, who else is incumbent besides those 3.
Oh, you mean for the incumbent? For the full board? We have so we had to know them by name.
Right.
You look at the samples ballots.
No, that's all my question. That was my only question.
No problem. I know that some information is on Ballotpedia, but it's very poor, the information that they have there. What I was doing when I was trying to find out about these candidates, and I tell you, it's very hard to find out about the incumbents. It's like they erase their whole story. You just have to go in and dig. I went to their Facebook accounts. I went to their Twitter accounts. I went to their websites. I started calling people. Whenever I would see a candidate would have people that were endorsing them, financially. I would look at the candidate, that form, and I would try to find out the people that were endorsing them, because I can assure you that an atheist is not gonna have a whole bunch of Christians endorsing them. And we do have atheists on the boards, in case you all don't know that.
Can I say something?
Yes, sure.
I just found something yesterday. And actually, this is something that I had on my presentation. I just found 10 specific scholarships that are being given through the school systems, specifically for those who consider themselves agnostic or atheists. I will be more than happy to forward that to you so you can make it available. I cannot believe that this is what we're looking at. I mean, it's one thing to have, respect for others and everything like that, but to sit there and say you have to make sure that you don't believe in God so that you can get money? Really? This is what we're telling our children.
Yes. Okay, sorry. Can you get closer to here? I don't think our.
I just went to cfisd.net and it lists the school board, the current school board.
Okay.
So they're there if you want to see who the incumbents are.
Okay, but do your research on everyone.
These are your kids and your grandkids. And there are a lot of people that are just getting comfortable. I get asked all the time, who do I vote for, Yvonne? Well, I work for Impact. I'm not supposed to tell you who to vote for. But I will tell you, do your research, because our kids need that. Okay.
I heard quite a bit about Side Air and Klein, but I didn't hear anything about the area that I live in, which is Spring ISD.
Spring ISD is running unopposed. I live in Spring myself. There were no candidates.
Oh. Can I say something to Spring ISD too? Yes, please do.
You right.
So part of my taking control of situations, I run a Spring ISD Facebook page. It's Spring ISD Parental and Community page. I have 3,500 parents and people in the community on it. Get on that, be a part of that. Spring needs leaders. Spring needs strong leaders to step up and actually start running and get control of that district. Let me just point out that Dr. Watson runs Spring. Now, I was part of getting rid of the last superintendent there after my friend's son's best friend was gutted in the Spring High School and murdered in the cafeteria. That's when I started the page. And I will tell you that Dr. Watson came in, and Spring ISD needs a lot of prayer and it needs a lot of work. There's a lot of, fights every day in the cafeteria. They've got it on lockdown at Spring High School. The principal's already quit, the new principal, because of all the fights. It's like prison. The kids can't even go to the restroom because they're not allowed out in the hallway. They need strong leaders. They need strong parental involvement. So if you know anyone that can step up and be a part of, we've missed the window for running. I need someone to run that Facebook page and be motivated. Everyone is kind of tired of me in that page because I am different from them over there. However, I still have a passion and a concern for the children and the community, and they really need strong leaders and strong people to step up. So be a part of that Spring ISD parental community involvement and be the catalyst for change that the district needs. There is what I would strongly say. So, sorry.
Okay.
No, thank you so much. And one thing that I did want to tell you, since you're talking about Spring, one thing that you notice in common in all these people is that they recognize that there's an area of need and they can't depend on somebody else to run. They have to run themselves. Okay, I don't have any children. I tell the story all the time, but I pay tax dollars into these school districts. And these children are the future of our nation. And I am paying so they can be indoctrinated so they can hurt me.
Right.
So.
Oh yeah, and Dr. Watson is going to TASB. So that was my point. Dr. Watson just accepted a position with TASB, which TASB is the Texas Association of School Boards, and that's where our taxpayers pay them. So how many people know what TASB is? Texas Association of School Board. So we as taxpayers pay TASB to lobby legislatively for us. And they do not lobby for Christian values. They do not lobby the way we lobby. They are lobbying for Marxism. They are lobbying for this divisiveness. They are lobbying against family values. They are part of the problem. And it's not just TASB, it's NASB or whatever it is that wrote the letter to the president saying we were domestic terrorists if we disagree. So that's why I say we are at a spiritual warfare.
And this goes much higher than just our little own district and in our backyard. So you need people with a spine who aren't worried about optics, who are gonna stand up to what is going on across the board and protect our children so they can get back to focusing on reading, writing, and arithmetic. So.
First of all, I want to thank you for stepping in. I worked in the school system for 10 years, okay, and inclusion paraprofessional, and I can tell you firsthand, I pulled my children out when I found out how the poop runs downhill. I have a question. Is the union still involved in the systems and school teachers? Are they still required to, does that keep them safe? I mean, is the union still a thread in their jobs? Let's put it that way.
In Klein or in
In all the school districts. I worked in Cy-Fair.
Okay, well, I guess I can kind of answer that one. So the unions in Texas, you're not required to be a part of them, but they do. You do still have a union rep at each one of these districts. And so, is there pressure for the teachers to be part of the union? Probably so, because you'll see that the superintendent, or the people that are in charge will punish some of the teachers who are conservative or who are strong Christians by moving them from different areas. For like, if I wanted to teach English, they can be moved into an area that I don't want to teach, or punish them some other kind of a way. So the pressure to do it is there, but so the leadership needs to change in that way, so that way that pressure can be removed. But again, I think it's always going to be there, so it's up to the teachers to also communicate with one another, because if you're not, the same thing that's going to happen with us as parents is going to happen, and that's our kids are going to be individually given assignments that are more like indoctrination type assignments. Then but it takes everyone to get involved with each other so that we know what's going on. But otherwise, it will continue.
Well, it's another level of bureaucracy where
Yes.
you get good teachers are kicked to the curb.
Mhm.
I mean, I saw one of the best teachers I've ever worked for in my life. I worked with special ed children and the troubled kids. And I did inclusion, where I helped them transition into regular school, into classrooms, and she was outstanding. We had 100% success rate, and she got kicked to the curb.
Well, it sounds like we need her help in these districts. I would love to have some of that advocacy.
That's just one of many stories I could share, but I'm gonna just say that might be a thread that we made, because Texas is a right to work state. I'm just saying that the unions have a lot to do with it. I'm gonna just have to say, I feel that.
Well, the unions and also the pressure amongst leadership within the schools also. So
Well, it's a comfort. We had the principal call one of the students an odd duck. You know what he did? He got a promotion. He got promoted up into the district, into a position he had no qualification for whatsoever.
we see that. We also see the teachers that end up getting fired, transferred just out of that district and into another district as well. So their poor records do not follow them. I think that might be an issue that we could raise on a school board level.
Yeah.
So.
Well, his wife was on the school board. That might have had a little.
Maybe so. Well, yeah, another thing I think Yvonne wanted me to share with you guys that I forgot to mention up there is I previously, probably back in 2016, I was one of those people, I was a strong, faithful Christian, and I would look at a background of someone being a pastor as just an immediate pass as to being someone that I would vote for. So we do have a pastor that's an incumbent we're running against in Klein, but there is a pastor in Cy-Fair who says some of the most vile things that I've ever seen come out of an individual's mouth, and he is a pastor as well.
I have a question. I wasn't going to say nothing, but I guess I should. My question is, with the system we have now, what can we do with these bad people we got in there? What should we do? Should we go to the school board and protest? What can we do with what we have now? Because we said spring is too late. I'm in the spring district. All of my kids are grown, so I don't have any there. But what can we do now with what's going on to help to fight what's going on until the next time show up?
So again, we need to get, Facebook groups or some way of communication, because you have to have a team. You have to bring people together. You have to be sharing with each other the assignments and the negativity or the poor choices that are being made, because if we're not sharing them together, no one knows what's going on. And that's why it's important. So if that spring group, I would suggest that Natalie began. I suggest everyone getting on there. If there's already 3,000 people there, we're starting one in Klein, and that's where the parents are sharing, hey, here's a picture of a book, and it's written by a Marxist. If you look at the reviews, it's all about hating America and hating our history, and it's revisionist history. Hey, here's an assignment on gender. That's how I found that the pronoun questionnaires, through these parents sharing amongst each other what's going on so we can hold them accountable. And you share it amongst yourselves, and you get into these school board meetings and you do your 2-minute discussion, and then you take clips of those videos and you share it online so that people are knowing what's going on. But you have to shed light on it, because once we see and identify the issue, only then can you start handling those issues. And as far as, I don't want to just say like, let's fire everyone. Here's why I feel super strong about policy, because if you have policies in place that are very specific on what kind of ideological issues you cannot be teaching in the classroom, then you can reprimand the teacher, you can redirect them into what they're teaching, and that would not include what they had that reprimand for. And maybe you could have a 3 strikes and you're out system, so you can remove them, but give them the opportunity, because the reason this is happening even with our pastors is because this stuff is evil and it's deceptive, and people are being deceived. We see people leaving their churches because woke ideology has crept into the churches. So because it's so evil and because it's so deceptive, that is why we see people supporting it, that for a fact that if they knew the truth behind it, they would never support anything like that.
What she was just saying, we need merit-based staffing. I mean, yes, you have to hold people accountable, but don't just hire people just because they're there. I mean, for Christ's sake, look into their backgrounds. Check, do this whole merit-based staffing aspect. If you're not going to hire just anybody willy-nilly for your company, why would you hire somebody to represent you on a school board that has nothing good to bring, but that has a history that is highly questionable? Look into all of this, right? And then our teachers, like I said, I do advocacy. I do advocacy for students and teachers alike, okay? Now, one of the things that I can tell you about definitively is, which is sadly to say, but counselors. The counseling system as a whole, when I was doing my training, and I went to Abilene Christian University, I had to go and get represented by an attorney to go against Abilene because they wanted to stop my husband and I from opening our practice. We had every right to do it. This is a Christian university. There's nothing Christian about the program. I'm sorry to say. Marriage and family therapy, okay? This is what I took. And they sat there and said, no. We can't have all these things in the system. We can't have people just going out there willy-nilly, just talking about whatever they feel like. And I'm going, this is Christian-based, supposedly, right? No, it's not. It's not at all. I had a teacher, a professor in there who actually sat there and said, well, I gave up my ministry. I used to be a minister. And we said, why'd you give up your ministry? He says, because counseling is more important. I go, what a fool. Don't you understand that ministry is counseling and counseling is ministry? You sit there and represent, and more than anything, don't just use your words, use your character. If people are going to judge me on anything, I'm going to look at my character based on the character of Christ himself. That's who I want to be like. Yes. That's who I need to represent for my children, right? I am not just going to sit there and speak on it, because here's the thing. In practice, we might have a Christian-based practice. We are pastors, we are chaplains. But in practice, it matters more what I teach them through my character than what I'm speaking in my words, right? And that being said, that's exactly what needs to take place with all these teachers and all these different people out there. Stop pandering. I mean, for Christ's sake, we need to stand up and actually support our children, support the ones who are trying to do the right thing. And, get out there on the school boards. Yes, of course it's important. Not enough people are showing up to the school boards. Could you imagine what it would look like if an entire community showed up at that school board? 117,000 families crammed into that school board? What are they going to say? No? There's strength in numbers. There's strength in numbers, okay? And here's the thing. Yes, I was trained in strategy by the U.S. Navy. They spent a lot of money on me to train me, okay? And I'm going to use that money and I'm going to turn it around to do something good for this country. My husband and I served on 9/11, all right? We were out there. I grew up in New York City. He grew up in Pennsylvania. He grew up, 15 minutes from the 93 crash? You think this was just a coincidence that I met him? No, this is absolutely not. This was God's doing. And I know that I have a purpose. And my purpose is to stand for the children. That's what I do. This is what I started off doing, why I wanted to do it, right? But to get in there and have that voice, you need somebody who's not afraid to take the challenges, to look somebody in the face and say, no, I'm going to make those changes for you because I have to, because I know that this is my calling. don't be afraid to stand up and be that voice. You're Americans. We're all Americans. This is who we're supposed to be. Use your constitutional rights.